So, hello and welcome to the Top Floor, the podcast where Charlotte area CEOs get to tell their leadership journey. My name is Jeff Cass. I'm an executive coach and the leader of a peer advisory group for CEOs and business leaders here in Charlotte, and I'll be your host today. I'm happy to have Jeff Smith from JL Smith, who has been in the specialty music instrument business for more than 5 decades for yourself, but for the company for 3 decades. So, Jeff, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Jeff. It's good to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm interested to talk about your story here because it's a long one, and you and I have got a chance to talk a little bit about it. But very interesting kind of progression throughout your journey. So let's just start with the basic one. Okay, I'm going to ask a very open-ended question, but tell us about your business and tell us about what you do.
Well, the business is operating in small niches of the musical instrument products business. So we do a number of different disciplines, including manufacturing, with a bunch of different manufacturing disciplines. We do distribution and we do retail, and we also service the instruments. So we've got a bunch of different departments, and we operate across 4 locations. We've got a flute specialty retail store in a suburb of Detroit. We've got one in San Francisco, and we do flute retail here in Charlotte, as well as a lot of our manufacturing is here in Charlotte. We also have a location in Denver, Colorado, that does what we call cut and sew work. So we're making backpacks and traveling cases and so forth for musical instruments. So a bunch of different disciplines, and we bring it all together in one enterprise and have a lot of fun with it.
Yeah. Okay. And I know the business didn't start as 4 different locations, right? With all of those different kind of arms. It started really from you working on instruments and repairing them. Is that correct?
Absolutely so. And it really just started with me at a bench fixing instruments. And my background is as a musical instrument craftsman. And
Okay.
we still keep that as a thread through most everything we do inside the business has a craftsmanship aspect to it. Even when we sell instruments at retail, we actually take them through a unique servicing process to sort of optimize the instrument. So we're bringing that craftsmanship into what we offer our clients. We do the
Hmm.
same thing with the manufacturing of tools and supplies and accessories. A lot of the things we manufacture are things that I had wished I had had when I started my craft in
Mm-hmm.
1977. So
Mm-hmm.
I've invented, if you will, a lot of tools and techniques that go along with the tools. And we build those to this day. And actually, I was, before this call, I was in the back talking to a worker that I've had for, gosh, 27, 28 years. And he was working on a product, and I looked at how many of these he was building. I said, Mark, we still sell these? This is incredible. And I thought about the genesis of that tool, and it's something that I created for myself to help me do my work better.
Mm-hmm.
But then what led to the selling of a lot of them and the need for manufacturing a lot of them is I started educating other craftspeople. And so that's also a big part of my history is as a teacher of the work. And
Mm-hmm.
that's how I built the tool and supply business, is teaching people how to do extended techniques, if you will, and how to, become more efficient in their work. So that led to the design of a lot of products, which we sell and manufacture.
Okay, that's interesting because you and I were talking a while ago. I mean, many companies have gotten away from service and repair. It almost is not economical or profitable. But for you, it's still a key part and a thread that goes throughout all the businesses, and maybe ones that prompted maybe the growth of manufacturing or other acquisitions. Is that correct?
Absolutely so, Jeff. And I consider that the repair department is the heart of our business. Now, it's not the largest part of our revenue stream,
Hmm.
but it is the heart. And so it's super important that we constantly refer to it, that we learn from it, that we bring it to our clients and bring absolutely a high level of satisfaction by our clients, but also inform the tools and products that we make, and then just the approach we have for all that we do.
Okay. It's kind of the identity of the company, right? It starts with that and moves on from there.
And maybe because it's my identity.
For almost 50 years, you've been involved with
Right.
this. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I could have ditched it, right? I could have set
Hmm.
that aside and said, "Ah, it's only, you know, X% of our revenue. Let's move it on. This is a lot of trouble. It's a lot of work and it's a lot of investment."
Hmm.
And all that is true, by the way, but it's still so important to me
Hmm.
personally, but also it's important for a business to have a heart, I think, you
Yeah,
know.
I would agree. I would agree. Regardless of how the P&L works on that particular part of the business for you, it's where the business starts is what it sounds like. And that's important to
Yeah,
understand, I think, when understanding JL Smith, right?
absolutely key. Yes.
Okay. Could you talk, Jeff, a little bit more about some of the acquisitions you made and how you got to the 4 locations? Because there's a long history of acquisitions, long history. I mean, over those 30 some years, right?
Yes, yes. Well, um, and actually, some of the acquisition goes back to my beginnings in the Pacific Northwest in a suburb of Seattle. I actually started acquiring businesses, I think, in 1979 or so. So
Okay.
it's got I've got a long history of that, and some of that is just based on I'm always looking for opportunities for growth.
Hmm.
Um, and and some of that is organic. Yes, we want more clients for this division or that division, or we want to broaden our product range here or there, or offer more services, or deeper level of client interaction and so forth. But I look at the the whole ecosystem of our industry and say, gosh, we could bolt things on to our company that sort of look like us or look like things we could easily absorb and do better, and we could grow our business that way. So I'm I'm constantly um, looking across the industry and outside of our industry, actually, just for information purposes mostly.
Hmm.
But I am am keen on growing the business both organically and through acquisition. And acquisition is a way sometimes to either extend our product range. Somewhat we did when we bought that company in Denver that is the cut and sew shop out there. We weren't doing any sewing work before then, but
Hmm.
we were doing things with accessories, and we were also selling to the same client base that they were. And
Hmm.
now we could sell to those clients at a broader level. So we could offer the same people more product. So they could order from one source, one invoice, one shipping bill, this sort of
Hmm.
thing. It's all simpler for them. So there was an advantage to the client base, an advantage to us, and the seller wanted to move on. So um, it was a great fit, great fit.
I see. So yeah, so you're looking for some type of business that will bring new growth for you, but is complementary ideally for the business. So with that cut and sew business, I mean, let me just kind of talk through my interpretation of what you said and tell me if I'm right. So this would be like a pouch that you would put the instruments in. Is that right?
Yes.
So they were selling that separately. You could package together with the instruments you're selling or you're repairing, and you have different platforms to sell, whether it be through the retail stores or online. So you have a channel, to the multiple channels to the market where you could expand that product line, as you integrate it into your business. Is that how it kind of played out over time?
Yes, that's well said. And we were already, in advance of even considering acquisition of that company, we were already selling that product at retail.
Oh, okay.
So we were very familiar with the product line. We loved it,
Hmm.
and it's like,
Hmm.
this is good stuff. And we we said, can we bolt this on to our current apparatus?
Hmm.
If we can't really bolt it on and take advantage of like our leadership team and the fulfillment department and shipping and so forth, if we can't easily incorporate it and get more leverage out of all the infrastructure we have, then it's probably not a good fit.
Yeah.
But we were already selling to the clients, we were already selling at retail, and so forth and so on. It's like, oh, this is a good fit.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's that 1 + 1 = 3, and it sounds like you definitely felt that in that acquisition.
Yes, very much so. Yeah.
You made another big acquisition, which I think your name is somewhat synonymous with Flute World, I believe, is what it was called. Is that right? Can you talk maybe
Yes.
about that one?
Yeah. The Flute World we purchased, I believe, in 2016,
Okay.
and that was our actually our biggest acquisition to date in terms of the size of the deal. And once again, we were already doing the same thing.
Mhm.
We
Mhm.
were now essentially, by buying them, we bought market share. So
Okay.
we were already retailing flutes and accessories. Now there's some things they were doing that we weren't doing, such as print music. They had a catalog, and we still do have a catalog of 14,000 titles of print music.
Wow.
We weren't doing that prior to acquiring them. And they also had a very deep range of products, and ours was more of a curated selection of products. So one thing that bolting them onto us empowered the Flute World brand with, though, is going back to the beginning of our conversation, that repair department. So
Mhm.
our repair department was central, as I say, the heart of the business. It wasn't for them.
Okay.
They didn't have a repair department, a facility that was anywhere proportional to the level of sales that we had. So that's something that we infused into the Flute World brand to make
Okay.
it even stronger. So we've, uh, originally that company was located in the Detroit area, and we still operate today there. And we also echoed that in San Francisco, and we put a retail location there as well.
I see. Did they bring any other capabilities, online capabilities that were complementary or better maybe to what you were doing at that time?
They had a very good web store. They had a very strong web presence, and so we bolted ourselves onto that, and I think we've grown that even further. Yes.
Okay. Okay. Any pitfalls or scars left over from some of these acquisitions you want to talk about?
Well, there's always challenges with every opportunity. There's a challenge, I guarantee you,
Definitely.
and a big part of the challenge in in business, certainly in our business, is the people, right? So we're a small business, and we're acquiring other small businesses. So every individual, both in our business and in the business we're acquiring, is is really key. So that's not to say that they need to stay with us or it won't work, but the personalities are super key. So it's getting everybody on board and getting them all aligned and moving towards the same thing. So some of the acquisitions we've done, um, there there was little organization, if you will.
Mm.
There was not so much uh, the conceptual approach to business and so forth. It just kind of happened, and it happened well, so it flourished. But um, that's the nature of a lot of small businesses, I think. And so as we bolt them on, and as we bolt more things on and grow our business, we need even more structure. We
Mm.
need we need stronger tools, and we need better communication, not less. We need more.
Okay.
Um,
Okay.
and those are some of the things I've learned along the way.
So you must spend a lot of time kind of understanding the people that would be coming, and where they would fit in, and then from there, how you kind of pull them in and integrate them into the business is what it sounds like. Is that right?
Absolutely. And there are some people that are really desirous of personal growth, right?
Mm-hmm.
And those are the ones that we want to make sure they have that opportunity. And in some respects, acquisitions really supply that that juice for that
Mm-hmm.
opportunity. So as we grow our company, we've been able to grow our team and give them more opportunity space. Maybe they have more people reporting to them. They control a bigger part of the budget and so forth. You know.
Yeah, or they were only, in Detroit, Michigan, but now they have some responsibility in San Francisco or in Charlotte or Denver
Yes.
even. Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah, new
Yeah.
opportunities for talented people that maybe wouldn't have had them in the past.
Right. And if we don't grow as an enterprise, then it's hard to imagine, you know, putting a lid on somebody's growth
Hmm.
that wants to remain in the company. Um, Even for myself, I want to continue to grow.
Hmm.
As I grow the company, it gives me more opportunities.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
um, it's good news all the way around, I feel.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, that's a good way to go into an acquisition, starting with the people and making sure that's the thought throughout, and into and after integration.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, well, let's shift gears a little bit. Talk maybe about some of the biggest challenges you have in the business today, if you would.
Well, the biggest challenge is me, I think. And I I say that because as we've discussed, I've been doing this since 1977, and I have some knowledge. And in fact, there's many days where I realize I know more than I thought I did, just because of the experiences I've had.
Hmm.
And we we need to replace that. We need to replace me. And it's not that I'm ready to retire or move to something else. I love what I do and I want to keep doing it, but I don't want to be the primary go-to
Hmm.
with this knowledge base. So that's one of the biggest challenges I have is is um, is kind of planting the seeds around the company that will grow into absorbing what I do, what I have, what I know.
Hmm.
And I am trying to build a self-managing company, and that is kind of in fits and starts, right? There's some weeks where I go, oh, we won that one or whatever, and then the next 3 weeks is like, oh my God, this isn't working. So what next? What do I do now? But
Hmm.
it's really, yeah, that I don't want to be so important to the company,
Hmm.
and I want all my leadership team to really have a piece of that where I'm actually even energized by how much more they know than I do,
Hmm.
and how much more they're capable of, and so in some respects, I need to kind of fuel that transition because I can't be here forever,
Hmm.
and I want the company to grow and prosper way beyond my time.
Yeah, succession planning is key. Have you started a formal process, or is it really just concept now for you that you're saying I need to get started with this?
Well, I have concepts around it, and I do have a process around it, but it hasn't always worked. It
Okay.
hasn't looked
Okay.
pretty up to this
Yeah.
point. So that's why I say it's the biggest challenge, and probably I'm at the center of that challenge,
Mm,
which is it's really on me to do the work around this.
mhm,
And I have done some work around it that has led down to kind of some blind alleys. so I'm retracing my steps and trying again. So yeah, stay tuned.
Okay, more to come. Got it. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
So you and I were talking a little bit beforehand because one of the questions that I wanted to ask you is, who's been your best coach or mentor during your career? And you had an interesting answer. So please share with the audience kind of what, your thoughts on the best coach or mentor you've had during your career.
Well, I see great value in having a mentor. I haven't had that for myself. Um, is I have had people that I could tap into for their thoughts and perspective and sort of a council, if you will, of people. And that changes over time. It morphs as our business does. But there are people I tap into from time to time. I did have a mentor early in my career, a fellow named Larry Ackerman, who taught me the skills of repair.
Okay.
I worked with him for the first year and a half, and of my career, and then he worked for me the next 3 or 4 years part time and so forth, and it was a great relationship. So that's one reason why I understand the value of mentorship and really appreciate it. And I would ask all young entrepreneurs to go find someone,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
get started that way. But I really don't have that for myself, and it's something that I miss.
Okay. Yeah, so you may not have had a mentor, but it sounds like you have a network of peers or confidants that you can go to. So maybe talk a little bit about that. How did that evolve? How did you bring the group together, or is it just pretty much ad hoc for you?
So there's there's several people in the industry that I tap into that are kind of peers in the industry. But there's also one fellow that I met through the industry a number of years ago, and actually I had a nice call with him this morning. And he's somebody that uh, I brought on uh, when I started getting pretty active with some acquisitions.
Mm,
And he had a deep experience with that in our industry. So he knows the people, he knows the places, he knows the environs, and so I've worked with him quite a bit, and so he's great at giving me feedback in that area, and I'll bounce ideas off of him, and vice versa. You know.
okay. Okay. So mostly inside the industry, people that you know and have tapped into when needed. Is that basically what you're saying?
Yes, but beyond that, I've been involved in a couple organizations that have also been peer organizations that have given me um, some some fuel and some ideas here and there, and I use some of those tools that I've learned. For example, I was in strategic coach for a couple years, and I use a lot of the tools from that learning in my business, and they could be very powerful. So that was a peer group of I don't know, 15 other guys or whatever that kind of in the same soup that I'm in, and there'd be
Okay.
somebody facilitating the class and so forth. That was great.
I see. Okay. All right. That's helpful. It's good to have those kind of folks available because
Yep.
it's hard to have all the answers yourself. There's no doubt.
Right. Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So tell us, what do you enjoy most about your role?
I um, I think that, and maybe it's because of how I've designed the role, but it really um, the role makes use of my unique abilities. And when I'm exercising my strengths and my unique abilities, um, I feel good.
Okay.
You
Okay.
know, I'm doing good work. I'm doing it in a way that energizes me. Now, what I enjoy also is the people. So the people in my business, I enjoy interacting with them on all sorts of things. It could be nothing related to work even. It could be just, why are you wearing that t-shirt? What does that mean? Some anime thing or something like that. It's like, who is this? What is this all
Hmm.
about? And it's just fun and fascinating where I learn about the people that work in my business, and I enjoy engaging with them, love watching them interact with each other and seeing the results of their efforts. And I love also giving them opportunity and space and coaching where it's warranted. And I think that's very fulfilling for me. And I love the industry I'm in. I'm a musician at heart. That's where it all started. And I'm in the music products industry, and we we engage with some fantastic musicians. We engage with some really smart vendors and suppliers to our company, and I feel like we've got all sorts of partnerships, both within the company and outside the company. And if we can, kind of enrich the ecosphere with our efforts, then we're leaving behind a trail of goodness, and that excites me. I'm glad to be part of that.
Okay. Okay. So you're a musician. I'm probably one of the most or the least musically inclined people you will ever meet. My daughter played the clarinet and played the piano, and I'm learning how to play the piano a little bit. But tell us a little bit about what you're musically. What do you do?
Well, I started. I wanted to be a guitar player when I was a little kid, and I my parents were both musicians, and
Mhm.
I approached them about taking guitar lessons, and they said, "Well, you got to study piano for a year." So I did that with Mrs. Bailey, and we
Okay.
studied piano, and it's like, okay, am I ready for guitar now? Because I really wanted to play guitar. So I believe I was 8 or 9 years old when I started playing guitar, and the first guitar I played was actually had belonged to my grandfather, and I had to fix it before I could play it. So maybe that's
Mhm.
what the genesis of all this business was, is that
Okay.
when I was a very young child, I had to learn to fix an instrument before I could play it. And I did that, and then that took me into guitar lessons where I studied very very seriously, and for many many years I played and practiced probably typically 4 hours a day for many, many years. So I became
Wow.
very proficient at it, played a lot professionally, particularly in my 20s, when I was just starting my craft. Um, I was I was doing repair work. I was teaching guitar, and I was playing like 4 nights a week, and I was surviving off of coffee, you know. And you could do that in your 20s when you don't have a family and this sort of thing.
Right.
So, but that was where it all started for me, and still that guitar playing is in my roots. Even though my business today is all about wind instruments.
Hmm.
So I started in the wind instrument aspect in the 70s, and I really pivoted strongly over into the wind instrument world. And
Okay.
as a result of that, I learned how to play the wind instruments because I needed to know how to test them, right?
Okay.
So I,
Okay.
I studied trumpet a little bit, but I studied clarinet and saxophone and flute and the double reeds somewhat. So I took private lessons and studied and built those skills. Um, the only instrument you'd be happy to hear me performing professionally, though, is guitar. I play all the others at a kind of rudimentary level at this point.
Okay. You really learned just because it was important for your business, not
Yeah,
because you liked it or you were good
yeah,
at it.
right. Yeah.
Okay, I see. Okay. Well, that's interesting. So I want to go back to something you said a minute ago. One of the things you said that you enjoy most about the business is the people, and you said in acquisitions, the people were really important. So when you're running a business and you're leading an organization, those people skills are really important. So maybe if you could just talk a little bit about how those people skills for you have evolved over the years.
Um, that's a great topic and great question. Thanks for that. The evolution has been um, not pretty. It's been messy, but there is evolution. That's the good news. And
Hmm.
maybe this is true with evolution of all things. I don't know. It's probably not always pretty, and sometimes things are very stagnant, and it looks like it's not moving or changing or getting better. And then sometimes there's a big leap in improvement and direction and so forth. Um, so for me, the the evolution has been so much about the questions, and I do a lot of um, introspection, a lot of thinking,
Okay.
and um, one of the things I think about quite a bit is, am I asking the right questions? And even, am I asking this question today because I asked it 3 years ago also, and I think it's the right question to ask? Or is this really the right question to ask today? So
Okay.
that's maybe where my evolution pattern comes from. It's just that constant questioning of the questions. And um, there are questions for the team, there are questions for myself, there are questions for our industry, there are questions um, about what I want for my work, and um, what do I see in the future? Uh, is my vision solid? Have I shared that with all the right people? Am I
Mhm.
asking the right questions of the right people at the right time? Am I sharing the right information with the right people at the right time? Those are the kind of the pool I'm swimming in constantly, and I try very much to not fill in all the blanks and have all the answers, but rather, do I have the right questions for today?
Okay. As you continue to learn, and maybe as you're prompting your people to learn, is what it sounds like the way you describe it, right? I mean, because your situation changes, so that same question you asked 3 years ago is very applicable today, potentially, right? I mean, I'm assuming that's kind of the direction you're going when you say that.
Yeah, it can be, or it can be like, am I just asking this because I've been in this place for quite a while, or is there something more important? You know, I think that even I had a conversation with somebody this morning about AI as example,
Mm.
and this is something that um, business leaders I think need to be talking about, both in their businesses, but also peer to peer, and learning about it outside of our industries and so forth. And because it's opportunity space, right?
Hmm.
It's leverage, and so it's exciting when something like that's game changing comes along. And I think we need to, bring those sort of things into conversation. And I wasn't having a conversation about AI 3 years ago.
Hmm.
I wasn't asking questions about how to incorporate it with my team in our business. But today, I think that's a very smart and reasonable question. What do we do
You're
with
right.
this? You know,
Yeah, I think the situation changes a lot, when you think about those people skills. I mean, do you have to introduce something that's new and potentially controversial for some people, or maybe just, something they don't want, like AI? Or, do you introduce the integration of another business in another city? And how do you manage that? Where now you got to communicate and deal with folks that aren't sitting in front of you and you can't go talk to, in person.
Right.
Because you've had that situation, right? How did you deal with that?
Yes, and that's something I still deal with it, and I don't want to use that word deal with so much, but I that is my scenario, which is that I have remote locations. So how do I interact with them, and am I doing enough, and am I doing it often enough, and how deep should I go? How often should I visit San Francisco, as example? You
Mm-hmm.
know,
Mm-hmm.
what do I say when I'm there?
Mm-hmm.
Because do I want to, um, uh, you know, build the relationships there, or do I want to rearrange the store, or do I want to talk about the numbers? All these sort of things. Um,
Mm-hmm.
it's when things are um, in various locations around the map, then the management cycles and the management concepts and tools need to change up a bit.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, the tool using what we're using today, which is a Zoom discussion, right, is something that we didn't have even 5 years ago, really. I mean, so, or we had it, but we didn't use it as much as we probably do today just because of the pandemic. So, has that been a tool for you that you've been able to use maybe a lot better in the last 3 or 4 years?
Very, very much so. Yeah. I remember many years ago, I think this was, I want to say the mid 90s or so. I remember a client coming into my shop. He brought in a saxophone for me to service for his son. And this gentleman was, I believe, a professor at a university. And he came in and picked up the instrument. He says, "Great, I'm going to send my son an email about this." And I remember asking him what an email was. And so I've been in business before there was email, before there was websites, certainly before there was Zoom, certainly before there was AI.
Mm-hmm.
But each one of these things has brought leverage, right?
Mm-hmm.
And where now I could reach a team of people. When we have our monthly all hands meeting, we do it virtually, right?
Okay.
And even in my building, I am often in my office and everybody else is in their little corner of the building. Sometimes we bring them all together in one room, but then
Mm-hmm.
we have the other locations are virtual. But we're using that as a tool for communicating deeper, wider, and more often. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, as you were talking there, I was thinking, I mean, the evolution of the business had to evolve with all the technology and everything else that happened over the years. As you look back on that, over the decades that you were in business, has that been one of the bigger challenges you've had to face, is continuing to evolve and having the business evolve with it, whether it be technology or people or, philosophy, whatever that is?
Yeah, that's a good question. I haven't seen that as a challenge, though it probably has been for some people.
Mm-hmm.
And um, yeah, I have found it as all of those things have been empowering. And if I wanted my business to stay the same, yes, those things would be challenges.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
I don't want it to be the same. I want it to to flourish and grow, and that brings change with it. Just if the universe doesn't change, but I want my business to change, that means something's got to be introduced that wasn't there before.
Yeah, I've never felt like change was a problem for me either, and it doesn't sound like it is for you. But that's not the same for every person. So when you have a significant change, and let's just say AI, you said we have to start talking about AI. How do you position that with folks, and how do you continue to work through maybe some of those concerns that people have or the resistance to change?
I think this is something that I've gotten better at when you talk about the evolution. I think years ago, Jeff, I would typically say, well, this is what we're going to do. There you go.
Right.
That was kind of the end of the conversation. And now I realize people come from different places and they are in different lives
Mm-hmm.
than mine. And they have different perspectives and different experiences and different wants and needs than I have.
Mm-hmm.
And so I try to um, understand those, and I try to approach everyone uh, with maybe, let's say, more empathy.
Okay.
So I could kind of understand and appreciate that place that they're in, and I try to speak to that place that they're in as much as I speak to them. Um, there are still times, frankly, where there's a proclamation, you know.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, you know, we're going to take Fourth of July off. It's not up for discussion. I mean,
Yeah, right.
there are some proclamations, but then there's a lot of. I think people are more comfortable with the proclamation if the 80% is more empathetic, right, and
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
understanding, and that is more appreciative of their stances and so forth. But there are sometimes, frankly, where you get to a point where certain people just don't want to come along for the ride.
Mm-hmm.
And when that's true, it's it, I say I get it, I understand. We're not for each other any longer. You're
Mm-hmm.
not for this
Mm-hmm.
business, and that's okay. Oh, please exit gracefully, and I wish you well and want you to find a place where you could grow and prosper for yourself. That might not be here. I'd love
Mm-hmm.
it if it was here for everybody. Then we'd be super magnet.
Yeah, yeah, but this is not reality, right? I mean,
No.
everybody, yeah, it just doesn't happen. Yeah. So command and control is not your style of leadership. It doesn't sound like. It sounds like you're at a point now where you maybe had some of that more in the past, and that was a bigger proportion of it, but it's not today, right? I mean, so maybe just describe a little bit about your leadership style.
Yeah, I would say that there's some leaders that are very dynamic. I would
Mm-hmm.
describe
Mm-hmm.
them as. I'm not that. I'm not dynamic. I remember reading this book one time where somebody said the CEO means Chief Energy Officer,
Mm-hmm.
and I thought, am I the Chief Energy Officer? It's like I don't think I am.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so hate to disappoint that author, but there's all sorts of different styles of CEOs, and my style is very. I would describe myself as very even.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have outbursts, and I don't get super excited about this and super depressed about this. It's like you could kind of know what to expect from me, and I think that's that's useful to many people. Though
Mm-hmm.
some people would prefer that I'd be like super high energy and you know that sort of thing. But I think that's my style. And the other aspect of my style, and by the way, I think style is something that I'd be very curious what other people's that have worked for me or do work for me would say about my style, because I might be totally misinformed about what I see of myself. But I think at the core, I'm a learner,
Mm-hmm.
and I want to learn more and apply more of what I've learned.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what uh, keeps me going, keeps me interested, keeps me energized, and that's what I think keeps the business growing thus far. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. That makes sense. Yeah, I think the style is an interesting point because you're right. A lot of people have a vision of a CEO, and maybe it's a Steve Jobs, or it's some other visionary that is very, kind of, they're the face of everything, right?
Mm.
But that's not the business you built very successfully over 3+ decades, right? I mean, and I think part of the message for everybody is be in tune with your own style. Whatever works, right, for you and the business, along with the complementary people that are around you to make it work.
Right, and that's a great point. That one of the things we need to do is find various ways to get to know ourselves. And when we get to know ourselves, then we learn that we have strengths. But then on the other column of that ledger sheet is the weaknesses,
Mm,
and or just the gaps, if you will.
hmm.
And maybe we don't even call them weaknesses because that implies that we need to strengthen those. It's like, no, we don't necessarily need to strengthen those. Maybe we choose to, but we need to fill in those gaps with other people that could fill those gaps really well. And
Hmm.
then we've got a complete picture. And the most important thing is to really understand who we are, what our strengths are, and tap into those and maximize those.
Hmm. Yeah, you mentioned you'd like to know kind of what other people maybe think of your leadership style, right? I think everybody kind of thinks of that. I believe, if you're leading a business, you don't necessarily know, but you strike me as a lifelong learner. You're probably asking questions that give you a sense of what people think and how they react to different things in maybe your style. Is that a fair statement? Just based off the little bit we've talked.
Yes, yes, I would say so. Yeah.
Yeah. So being self-aware is part of the message for you, probably to everyone, right? I mean, you have to be self-aware in your style.
Yes, very much so. And one of the things I do find with people, and this is something, one of those questions I constantly ask myself is, some people don't know how they're perceived.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, they know what they're thinking, what they're feeling. They know what they want to communicate. They know what they want to change and affect and this sort of thing. But um, most of us don't know how other people read us,
Hmm.
in my experience. And that's, gosh, I think it's a superpower if we can know what other people are seeing when we say something, when we get up there and try to lead a meeting and so forth,
Hmm. Yeah,
And
I think that
sometimes,
awareness
yeah,
that awareness is very important. I agree with you. Yeah.
yeah, it absolutely could be a superpower. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. We're going to be careful of the time here. A couple more questions for you. Okay. So, tell us a little bit, and this is kind of along the same lines that we're going down, but what have you learned about yourself, over the 3 decades that you've led this business?
Um, Great question. And I think that I have learned that I'm capable, that I could actually do this, that I
Hmm.
could survive doing it. And that's really big. Um, to be an entrepreneur, business founder, whatever label you want to put on it, um, involves a lot of risk, right?
Hmm.
And some of us are more comfortable with risk than others. I think I've learned that I'm pretty comfortable with risk.
Okay.
And I think that's something that I don't see in everybody. Um, and that's okay. We're all different and we can't all be business owners, right?
Right. Right.
Please don't. Let me be the guy.
There you
Um,
go.
but I, I do find that, I had, questioned that early on in my career. I remember, and I've told this story to others, that there was a kind of a 7-year point in my career where I finally got to the place where I said, I think I'm going to be able to do this.
Okay. Okay.
I think it took that long to really say I'm going to be able to do good work and earn a living doing this.
Okay.
That was that 7 year mark for me.
So you never envision yourself running a business on your own for your whole career, is that it?
Um, I didn't have a clear picture of that, but I did have a clear picture that I wanted to do stuff that hadn't been done.
Mm-hmm.
And I also felt that I was not kind of made of the cloth that would work well in somebody else's organization. That I was kind of more of an independent guy.
Okay. Okay.
When I was a kid, all through high school, I was reading books about all these great, what they used to call the robber barons, you know, the Rockefellers and Carnegies and Morgans and this sort of thing. I always was fascinated by the the stories of people getting rich by building an enterprise, whether it
Mm-hmm.
was Standard Oil or a railroad or, DuPont or whatever it was. I was always enamored with those stories, and I wanted to kind of find my own story that was similar. Now, I haven't got
Mm-hmm.
that far, but
Well, I mean, you didn't build an oil business or a railroad, but you built a successful business over this
right.
time, and you've certainly grown it. So I don't know, maybe you've kind of lived out kind of what you were fascinated with as a kid, is what it sounds like to me.
Yeah, I suppose so. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, as you look back on it, that's true. So given that, my final question here. So, what advice would you have for a new executive or a new CEO?
Oh, my observation is that a lot of people are thrust into the C-suite without being equipped, and some of that is because we are often promoted for doing good work. We are, if we excel in the sales department, as example, we might be promoted to the VP of sales. Um, Being a great salesperson doesn't make you a great VP of sales.
Mm,
And this is something that I think um, at first, when somebody's becoming an executive, um, the first ingredient to success is humility. And and if they don't have that or can't be um, mentored into that state, then I think it's not going to go well. Um, and I think we have to kind of come to terms with understanding that we aren't fully equipped and we don't even know what we don't know, perhaps. And the
hmm.
first step is to learn what we don't know before we go about becoming knowing.
Okay.
So I think it's important for that person who's been promoted into that role to have a sequential stair step approach to becoming that that leader that they would want to follow, right?
Mm, okay.
And the leadership is not created by a promotion. It's not created by a title. Leadership is created by followers. Without followers, you're not a leader.
Hmm.
And the followers um, build that leader. And so I think it's super key for that person that's been thrust into the leadership space to really consider that they've never been there and it may not be in their DNA. Now, maybe some people have more more skills to take into that role than others, and maybe more demeanor or whatever it is, whatever's required. But I think, gosh, doing that inventory of yourself and saying, what do I need here now?
Hmm.
What don't I have? How do I go about acquiring that? And just having that kind of humble stance will likely lead to greater success for the organization, for the people that you lead, and more fulfillment for yourself.
Yeah, it's not about them, right? It's not about them being promoted. It's about understanding the job and your point and being humble enough to be able to say, I don't have all the answers. Is that a fair assessment?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Yeah, that's great advice, Jeff. So I appreciate that. I don't have any more questions for you right now, but I want to thank you for being on the show. I personally am fascinated by your success over the last 3 decades, working. So it's been a very good experience for me to learn more about it today. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Jeff. I really appreciate being here with you.